Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Highlander Hoops Weekly. I'm your host, Chris Stoner, and this week we are joined by Floyd Central Athletic Director Jeff Sequeira. Highlander Hoops Weekly presented proudly by the Pete Palmer Law Office. Palmer Law located on Scribner Drive in New Albany. Palmer Law, a proud supporter of Floyd Central Athletics. Again, as mentioned, we're joined by Athletic Director Jeff Sequeira for a special edition of the show. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invite.
Mr. Sequeira, in his 8th year as athletic director here at Floyd Central, he's also a Floyd Central graduate, and we'll talk about that here shortly. And Jeff, I want to talk about, we're only 8 days removed from the boys basketball team winning the conference title. I know we're in sectional week, and the focus is on the Friday night semifinals coming up, and then hopefully a Saturday night championship game. But just rewinding a little bit back to the win over Columbus East, going through the conference undefeated, the first outright conference title since 1986. As athletic director and been here around Floyd Central for most of your life, can you put into words what that means to the program, to the athletic department in general, and just the community to win the conference at 7-0?
I think it's big for the program, also for our athletic program in general, just simply because, let's be honest, the newspapers, the headlines are always about football, basketball, even though we'll probably talk a little bit later about some of the other successes that we've had throughout the years. You know, getting our name out there and just being recognized as Floyd Central is back, you know, that was a very special night, very special year. We're hoping it's going to continue. I know the kids are working hard, but as far as, you know, going 7-0, being able to get back at Columbus East, because they kind of took that away from us last year when we had a chance to be co-champs, and being able to defeat them on our last home game was just very special.
Well, speaking of home games, the boys basketball team has quite a home winning streak. I think it's up to 18, maybe 19 games dating back to last season, and Coach Sturgeon's the first to talk about. A big part of that is the Kilt Crew, which yourself, along with Dr. Willman, and I'm sure others, have cultivated over the years, and it just seems to be at a peak right now of the student body, the entrance, the intros before the game. I mean, it's a big production. People look forward to that, and the players we've interviewed said, you know, we love it. You know, the guys down there in the end zone for at least a half are making it difficult for the visitors to shoot free throws, and I think the kids, their energy gets the adults into the game as well. You know, in a day and age when it's not necessarily cool sometimes to go to a high school game if you're a teenager, and especially at big schools, it seems that the student body participation's dropped off. How have you and your staff and colleagues just been able to cultivate what we've seen this year?
Well, obviously I listen to your show every week, so I've kind of heard what Dr. Willman had to say. He and I got together a couple of years ago when he took over the principalship, and just looked at different types of things that we could do. And one of them was obviously to empower our student body to take more ownership in cheering for our athletic teams. So I kind of went back, and one person that Dr. Willman did mention who was a huge impact on the Kilt Crew and more or less initiated it was Michael Wiltshire. He was working for me at the time. He's also our freshman basketball coach last year. And he and I sat down, talked about different things. He came up with, you know, painting the green zone out there and a lot of other different things he's done for Floyd Central. Being a young guy himself, he was able to really relate with our kids and motivate them to step up and take action and really enjoy being a part of high school athletics. So thank you to Micah for doing that. And we've kind of just kept the ball rolling. You know, kids, once they see that, they want to be a part of it. And we have kids just stepping up saying, hey, I'd like to do that. How can I be a part of it? So I really look forward to that being a continual thing over the next couple of years. So getting them to show up on Friday, Saturday nights, and even sometimes on Tuesdays, you know, for boys soccer match or girls volleyball match. It's been real exciting and a lot of fun.
I remember when I was in school here, and not to pick on any administrators back then, but at least I kind of got the feeling that, you know, well, they're just a bunch of old principals or old teachers or old ADs, and you know, they can't relate to us, and they didn't want to talk to us, and it was hard to approach them. Does it come down to just communication, just being open and just knowing that, hey, these kids can come talk to me, and it's a two-way street?
It does. I think obviously you have to have good student leaders. When we started this last year, Chandler Stummer was kind of our senior leader. Had Reed Plunkett and a couple others. My son Braxton, Jared Agnew, Noah Cook. Some of them stepped up with the junior leadership, and they were able to, I think, lead the rest of the student section in making sure that they were cheering appropriately. Granted, I know we're going to have the typical the air balls and the "you can't do that" chant, which is always those are fun, and you got to let the kids have a little fun. But what they have not done as much of is the negative cheering towards the other team. Dr. Willman and I had a meeting with them the other night before our last home game, just to talk about the upcoming sectional and what our expectations were. And we explained to them, a negative cheer is not going to pump your team up. You need to pump your team up because that's what's going to get them to perform at a higher level. And then, we had a couple other kids, just kind of make a brief comment, and you can see every kid is kind of shaking their head, and they know what we're talking about. Sure, we have our rivals, the New Albany's, the Providence, the Jeffersonvilles, where the kids really show up in force and they enjoy saying a few, I guess, negative things. But for the most part, the kids have done a fantastic job being positive and cheering on their teammates and doing it in a very appropriate way.
I know Dr. Willman was pretty honest when I asked about when you do the ESPN SportsCenter, if he gets a little hesitant handing a teenager a live mic, and he was pretty honest, said, yeah, sometimes, but we've got some trustworthy guys. What about you? Do you get a little nervous there when you hand that mic over?
I don't, simply because I'm kind of a control freak. So, with the rap that we had, the ESPN, we practice those things. I'm having the kids stay after school, and I want to make sure it's nice and smooth and it's done very well, so we don't look like we're being silly. We want them to have a good product. So I feel pretty comfortable once the kids get that mic. They've already practiced the skit, I guess you could call it, and it runs pretty smoothly. So yeah, sure, I guess you're always worried that someone might ad-lib something. But the kids that we're putting in charge, they're the student leaders. They've been the ones that have taken control of the student section, and we've been able to trust them during the cheer, during the game, so we feel like we can kind of hand them the mic and let them have their time in the spotlight.
A big thing that Dr. Willman and I talked about, and something that he pushes, you push, Floyd Central in general pushes, is multi-sport athletes. And that starts with the leadership and goes down to the head coaches, I assume, letting them know, hey, we want kids playing multiple sports. And in this day and age of specialization, that's great to see a big school encourage that, because the bigger schools, let's face it, they can get away with it, if you will, because of the numbers. When you played at Floyd Central, I know you were a multi-sport athlete, played 3 sports, if my memory's right, football, basketball, and baseball. I guess it's a little two-part question. A, why is that important still to you today for kids to be encouraged to play multi-sports? And then B, how is that different now compared to when you were in school here?
Well, why it's important, I think, is the kids only get to be kids for a short period of time. And you never know what's going to happen, depending on the coach, depending on your classes around you. You could end up being your best basketball player in your class and never really become an impact player at the varsity level, simply because maybe the class ahead of you or behind you just have tremendous athletes. So you always have to kind of keep your options open, so I try to tell the kids. So, you always need to plan ahead and just be a kid. Braxton, my son, plays 3 sports. He plays the same 3 that I did, and I've always stressed to him, the more that you get involved with, the more experiences that you're going to have, and even when you're put in tough situations, the better prepared you're going to be for that next tough consequence. Or if he's trying to make a reception in the football game, the more he gets put in that situation, the easier it is the next time he's at bat with 2 strikes on him and the winning run at second base. The more times you put you in a situation like that, the better off you're going to be prepared to hopefully be successful. And it's just like anything in life. The more opportunities you have, the better prepared you are. You're probably going to be more successful. So I think that's why it's important. Just be a kid. Get out there, play multiple sports. I've encouraged that with our coaches. I think they're doing a pretty good job of passing along and trying to at least have the kids play 2 sports, and hopefully that continues. I know that I'm going to be going down to the middle school and talking with the incoming 5th graders, because I want to make sure as they're getting into middle school that they're not starting to specialize even at an early age, because a lot of AAU people out there are saying specialize, specialize, specialize. I'm telling them, hey, keep your options open until you're at least a sophomore. Get through your sophomore year, play a few sports, then figure out kind of where you're going to fit in. Then you have an idea, because you've probably stopped growing by then. You have a pretty good idea of the class in front of you and the class behind. Then you can kind of really make a decision on what you want to do. Let alone trying to keep up with the rigor that we have academically here at Floyd Central. As far as the difference from when I played, it's a lot different. When I played, you didn't play year-round sports in any sport. You played football during football season, basketball, you played basketball, and then baseball, the same thing. Your summers, you had a little bit of everything, but AAU wasn't really that big. You didn't have those coaches outside of the school saying, hey, we need you. If you want to be good, if you want to get a college scholarship, you got to play year-round. So the outside influences, I think, are the ones that are hurting high school athletics. It's not the high school coaches. It's those people outside, and a lot of them, quite honestly, they're just trying to make a buck, because those coaches get paid, they give lessons, so that's the difference. It's the outside influences that are kind of affecting it these days.
So I want to talk about when you played here a little bit, because you played under Hall of Fame coach Joe Hinton, graduated here in '85, a part of 3 sectional basketball championships, 2 regional titles. Assuming in baseball, we didn't talk about this before you press record, but you guys won all 4, right?
We won 4 sectional titles while I was here. Yeah.
All 4 sectionals in your 4 years. Knowing that you played here and played an integral part as a player in kind of the heyday, if you will, of Floyd Central athletics, is it possible to put into words what a boys basketball sectional championship this weekend would mean to just the community as a whole?
Well, I think it would mean more than what it did back then, because when I played my first 2 years that we won, my sophomore, junior year, we had to beat North Harrison and Court. Then we would go to the regional, and then you would face the Jeffersonvilles and New Albany, Bedford would all feed into the Seymour regional. Since then, it's changed. Now your sectional is basically your regional, and those aren't easy to win. So you really don't have any easy games. Plus, we didn't have the Bedfords. Even when my senior year, the alignment changed and we had to go to Jeffersonville, which we defeated them. It's just much more difficult. So if we win the sectional, or when we win, hopefully, that will probably be the biggest sectional basketball victory for Floyd Central, just because you have multiple teams from large schools all competing for one sectional title.
The environment back then for sectionals and regionals was just, packed houses guaranteed. And this weekend we're going to see 8,000 fans in Seymour, like, we used to always see at regionals back in single class days. Can you talk about a little bit the environment back in the 80s as far as the fans and when you played here and the sectionals and regionals and semi-states? I assume we're going to see a similar environment this weekend to what maybe you remember?
Well, the regional was always packed, and I think if you talk to the players and you ask them, did you really notice it? You do when you're warming up, and you do probably at the end of the game. But once you get involved and you're playing and you're defending or running an offense, listening to your coaches, you kind of forget about the crowd. At least you're supposed to. Because you don't want to get caught up in it. And our kids have really done a nice job this year, because we've had great crowds to play with. So I'm excited for their opportunity. It's very similar to what it was in the days past, and I'm just excited for tomorrow and Saturday, hopefully.
One thing I want to talk about as we talk about a possible sectional title for boys basketball is give you a little chance here to brag on the whole athletic program in general, the conference titles that each program has been able to put up, the sectional titles, the all-conference champions that Floyd Central has had for a number of years, and if you could just talk about that a little bit, I think our listeners would like to hear that.
Well, I am technically the fourth athletic director at Floyd Central. Les was the second. He really took over about the second or third year. He built a lot of these programs from ground up. Bill Pierce came in. So they have really built the programs and started the success train, I guess you could call it. Because when I look back and I talked to my coaches about this, I brought some stats here. Since 1990, being in the Hughes Conference, our girls have won the overall conference title 22 out of the past 27 years. We've got it 22 times, Columbus East 5. For the boys since 1990, we won it 21 times, Columbus East 4 and Jeffersonville 2. So when you look at our entire 19 varsity sports, they've been very successful. Several have been very dominant. When I came here 8 years ago, basketball was one of our programs that we needed to improve. And I think over the course of a year with several different changes, including adding two teams at the middle school. Brett Eads has done a great job getting these kids to love athletics and be involved in basketball. Coach Surgeon's done a nice job, getting them once they get here and getting them ready for games. We've had that success, but a lot of the teams that you don't hear about, our golf teams are fantastic. Cross country, boys and girls tennis. I mean, you go across the board. Volleyball is one. I can't tell you how many sectionals over the past 15 years. It's been very, very productive. 19 sectionals every year, 19 varsity sports. Well, the last 6 or 7, we've always been in double digit. We've always won double digit sectionals. So that just kind of tells you how successful our entire program is. And that's because we have great student athletes and we have great coaches. When you put that combination together, you're going to have a lot of success.
One thing I want to know about, and this may sound silly because maybe everybody out there but me knows this, but the T-shirts. The T-shirts you get the Kilt Crew. I see tweets you saying, hey, for a big game, you buy a ticket and you get a shirt. It's a package deal. T-shirts were handed out at the sectional game Tuesday. I think you got more to hand out for Friday night's game. Where do they come from? How do you get them so quickly? How do you get them mass produced and the sizes? It blows my mind. Do you have a T-shirt factory at home? I just have to know.
Well, we don't, but we've got a lot of big helpers. Karen Silkscreen has helped us out a lot. 323 Inc. also does a lot for the Kilt Crew. So they are Floyd Central supporters. I know they probably do some things for other schools, but if we call them and say, hey, we came up with an idea. We'd like for you to have these shirts. There's a possibility we can have them by Friday. They'll get it done. I know Karen has worked through the night at times just to get things done because she's a Floyd Central grad and she knows what it was like to be able to cheer a game. So, it's a lot of fun. The kids like doing the themes. I think that's another thing that Dr. Willman and I really have stressed over the last couple of years just to try to get some more energy. They love the USA, America Night. But then the rest of your Kilt Crew leaders have come up with their own themes along with the cheerleaders and just make it fun.
Well, Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for being here in the special edition of Highlander Hoops Weekly. And we're glad we were able to get you in the luxurious Palmer recording studios. He had snacks. Oh, he still has snacks.
Still has snacks. Probably the same ones from a couple of days ago.
It's the same cupcakes from 2 weeks ago, but they are here.
Yeah, they look have some red, but starting to get some green on them for
some
reason.
Be ready for Christmas. So we thank Pete, as always. I do think his name up in lights there is a little too much, but hey, if he's bankrolling the operation, you have to deal with that.
Absolutely.
So Athletic Director Jeff Sequeira, kind enough to join us here on this special edition of Highlander Hoops Weekly. If you don't have a ticket for Seymour, well, you may be able to get some on the sidewalk, but it may cost you a few pennies. But find a way to support your Highlanders this weekend, taking on Jeffersonville Friday night in the first semifinal at Seymour, and then Saturday night, the championship game will be against the New Albany Seymour winner. That's a 7 o'clock start, if I'm right, on Saturday night. Well, for Mr. Sequeira, I'm Chris Stoner saying so long from the Palmer Recording Studios, and we will talk to you next week. So long, everybody.